So this is Basis. This is the navigation
So this
explanatory
track is
video.
called Basis, and it is a really, really fantastic tune that you're going to learn because it's what's called a 12-bar blues. And this is one of those things that every musician and bass player like you are a bass player now because you're sitting there with your bass, every musician and bass player should know a 12-bar blues. It's if you think of musicians such as Eric Clapton or B.B. King or Buddy Guy or Robert Cray, Stevie Ray Vaughan, all of these amazing blues artists, predominantly they're always playing from a 12-bar blues. Okay, that's the form that they play around a lot of the time. Now this one in particular is actually a minor blues. It's a minor blues. There's a major blues and a minor blues. Okay, you don't really need to worry about any of that right now because you're just getting started, but I just wanted to flag it up so if you're ever in a jam session situation in the future, a few months from now, then somebody says, hey, should we play a minor blues? You can say, yes. Or if somebody says, hey, should we play a blues? You can say, is it a major blues or a minor blues? Anyway, so I digress. So it's a minor 12-bar blues. And it's also great as well because this might be the first time that you've seen some repeat marking. So let's just take a jump in to the navigation of this piece, okay, before we go any further. Obviously, it's in 4/4. It says that right at the top of the piece, 4 beats a bar, okay? And it's a medium tempo, nothing to worry about. We're not kind of like full on rocking out here. It's just a slow, kind of groovy, nice tempo. And as soon as we go into it, you will see that right after the 4/4 sign, there is a thick double bar line with some dots, okay? Now, this means at some point during the piece, we're going to have to repeat back. We're going to have to go back to that point, okay? So if you look at the first 4 bars, nothing to worry about there. And then the next 4 bars, or next 4, some people call them measures, next 4 measures, okay, nothing to worry about there. And then if we look at bar 9, okay, bar 9, remember to use those handy little numbers down the side of the sheet music there, okay? Count with me, okay? Bar 9, bar 10, bar 11, bar 12. Now at the end of bar 12, you have, again, that's called a repeat mark. Big, thick double bar lines with 2 dots, okay? That's our repeat mark. That means for me and you, we need to play all the way through from bar 1, all the way through to the end of bar 12. Then we hit bar 12, we go all the way back to bar 1 and we play the same thing again, all the way through. But the second time round, we go all the way through to bar 12, play bar 12, and then end on bar 13. It is as easy as that. So once you've learned this piece, you'll understand now what repeat marks are and how to use them. And you're going to see this in some of the pieces within this level, you're going to see that, and in some pieces we're just going to be playing straight through because sometimes people use repeat marks and sometimes they don't, and we want to get you used to using both, sometimes playing them and sometimes not. Now if you want to check out on my notes here, the team has given me a little shout out to B.B. King actually, and they've said that, I'm just going to read this directly from my notes here. He says, this progression is easily one of the most famous minor blues songs ever, and it's similar in style to B.B. King's The Thrill Is Gone. And then it actually says, he didn't write it, but his version put the song on the map, making it the blues standard that it is today. And then they go even further to saying the hit version from 1970 had Jerry Jamot on bass. Very cool bass player. Very cool. Played with like Aretha Franklin, and a ton of other guys as well. And it says that those guys played it a half step down from what we're going to play it in, and they were playing it in the key of B minor. So if you want to check out somebody doing it, check out B.B. King's 1970 version with Jerry Jamot on bass, and you'll be able to play along as you shift everything down half a step so you're in the key of B. Now, without further ado, let's jump into the performance tips for this track.
Okay, so let's go to the performance tips now.
So when performing this piece, the first thing you want to really lock down is the groove. Okay, we're bass players, right? This is really important, okay? We want to really have a nice solid groove and make sure that we're locking in with the rest of the band, with the rest of the backing track, especially the drums, okay? Drummers and bass players, we kind of work as one unit. In fact, you could say that about the whole band, but if there was ever like a fundamental underlying thing that, you know, that everybody understands, is how the bass and the drums really lock together. And you'll see that. Let me just play the first 4 bars for you. And I'm not going to play it with any drums or anything like that. You're just going to hear me play it. But hopefully you'll be able to get a vibe for how rooted I am in terms of the downbeats. That boom, 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 boom. I want the I'm really feeling those downbeats. And I'm tapping my foot as well. If it helps you to tap your foot along when you're playing, that is a cool thing to do, okay? Because it makes you feel those downbeats where they are, okay? Let me count it in. 1, 2, first 4 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4. Really confident. And then I'm on to bar 5 there, okay? So I've got a nice round fat tone. I'm not picking down here too much, because if you pick down here, it's kind of like a sound. We want to okay, big fat round tone, really nice and even as well. What you want to do is make sure when you're plucking the different strings, you want the same fat round tone on all the strings. You don't want these ones down here sounding nice and round, and then these ones, you know, being played with a nail or anything like that. You want the pad behind the finger, and it'll really help you get that fat round tone, okay? Now the next thing to look out for in these first 4 bars is the rests, okay? You can see the notes. We've got a lot of C's, so boom, 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 C, G, C, a lot of C's, right? But in between those, you'll see a little squiggle. That little squiggle is what's called a rest. And on a rest, we do not play, okay? But the thing to look out for, which a lot of bass players fall into the trap of, is not playing the note for its full length. They'll do this instead. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it's not that. It's bar off, bar off, bar off, bar bo, bar off. You know, that one bar, 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 bar bo, bar. You need to play them notes, those 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, you need to play them for a full length, because they are what's called a quarter note, and they last for quarter of the measure. Okay, each 4 quarter notes per bar. Now, to do that, to make sure that you're deadening the note, okay, like that, I'm using both hands. This hand is releasing a little bit of the pressure, okay? Okay, you can hear it zinging a bit because I've got brand new strings on this little beast. There's a little zing, the new string zing. Okay, so I'm releasing the pressure, but also I'm using this hand by going, and I'm laying it on the string. So really great exercise, even before you get into playing this piece, is actually just take that first measure and just go round and round and round and round and round. First bar, like this. And you might get a little, can you hear that? It's as I kind of just drop the little hand, it's actually a normal size hand, I don't know why I called it little there. As I drop my hand onto the strings, it just gives a little, almost like a snare drum. You know when you press, if you watch a drummer play, that you know the sounds, right? You might not know the names of the drums, but when you look at a drummer play, all of the drums have got different names, and I don't mean like Gav, Alan and Dan, I mean snare, top rack, middle rack, floor top, you know, all that kind of thing, right? So when you hear a drum going, that's called a bass drum or a kick drum, and that's a snare drum. Now, interestingly, when we play, the snares in this piece are on our rests, so we're almost stopping playing and letting that snare drum come through. So it's sort of like, right? We're letting that snare drum breathe and come out in the music. We're not kind of sort of like playing all over it. Then, you know, you can do that. It's something that to listen out for when you listen to music, to whether the bass line is laying off that area or whether we're playing over it. You can do both, but in this piece particularly, we're kind of, that's where our rest is. So when you're playing along with the track, listen for that snare drum. When that snare drum hits, we're not playing, okay? That's when we're not playing. So let's just go through the first 4 measures, or the first 4 bars. And I just want to talk about the fingering as well, because I'm doing something, there's 2 different ways of playing this. I want to show you both. So I'm going to start right from the top and I'm going to play it with my little finger. We're making sure, obviously, that the fingers are right behind the frets as well. We want them right, we don't want them in the middle of the frets. We want them right behind. Okay, that's where you get the best tone, and it means you don't have to push down as much. Okay, so right behind the frets. Okay, and I'm going to play with my little finger. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that was the first 3 bars there.